So hi everybody, thank you ever so much for attending the eFunctional Skills webinar today as part of the City and Guilds Digital Week. I'd just like to start by introducing myself. My name's Samantha Upton. I may have met a few of you before. I'm actually the Digital Solutions Manager for the North of England, Northern Ireland and also Scotland. Just to introduce my colleague Simon Berry, who will be taking some of the Learning Assistant webinars. He is the Digital Solutions Manager for South England and also Wales. So City and Guilds are very keen at the moment to diversify their product range, and in doing so we are strongly investing in digital learning. We view that there's a number of reasons for you to use digital as part of your teaching and learning. One of the main reasons is to improve student engagement and motivation. A lot of our content-based systems has things like gamification to really help get the learner engaged. There's a lot of presentations and videos. So again, using a different format perhaps to a textbook. We also, all of our systems allow the learner to progress at their own pace. So the system eFunctional Skills that I'm going to show you today will produce individualised learning plans. The learner can log in 24/7 on any form of digital device, and again they can watch those presentations, read the PDFs at their own pace and in their own time. The system that I'm going to show you today will actually customise the learner level. It does allow you to bespoke that learner journey as they will be provided with resources that are ultimately suitable for them. The system is completely trackable, so you can view the learner's progress on a red, amber and green system, which is really useful as the system is so visual to help you understand whether that learner is in fact exam ready. And then the learners can choose what they want to learn. So as part of that individualised learning plan, they can pick bits out of it, pick the bits that they want to learn first, which again just helps you to tailor that learner's journey a little bit. So just to introduce the whole of our product range, you may have signed up for some of the other webinars this week. In terms of digital learning, we have quite a few e-learning packages now, from MHD Academy for Hairdressing, Adult Health and Social Care e-learning, eTaqua, the Maths and English e-toolkit, which is another system for teaching and learning resources for maths and English. We have automotive e-learning, which we will be covering on a webinar this week. Scientific principles, which will also be covered through a webinar. Hospitality and catering e-learning, and beauty e-learning. If you do want any further information on any of those packages, some of which we won't be covering this week, then you can always email directsales@cityandguilds.com. In terms of Learning Assistant, which is the middle box as you can see there, we have SmartScreen, which is the platform where we store a lot of our teaching and learning resources, from lesson plans, schemes of work, and generally they are all tailored towards a particular curriculum area. We also have the bookstore, so City and Guilds produce a lot of textbooks and logbooks, again to support your teaching and learning. And likewise, we also have a variety of ebooks as well. Some of the main systems that we're going to be covering this week are the platforms that we have. So City and Guilds has SkillZone, which is one of our newest platforms, and it's there to support the learner in developing the workplace skills that they need for employment, the critical skills such as communication, innovation, digital skill. We then also have Learning Assistant. Learning Assistant is the City and Guilds e-portfolio. As part of Learning Assistant, we now have LA Connect, which is actually an integration bridge between Walled Garden and Evolve. So if you want to hear more about that, feel free to register for the Learning Assistant webinars. Lastly, the system that I'm going to go through today is eFunctional Skills. So City and Guilds has produced eFunctional Skills in conjunction with an organisation called Hodder Education. On there we have maths, English and ICT resources, and it actually takes the learner from initial assessment all the way through to exam success. Okay, so as part of mine and Simon's roles, we are here not just to speak to you about these digital platforms, but also to assist you in terms of the training and development and implementation of these systems into your organisation. So we offer an awful lot of support through bespoke webinars. Often we also include face-to-face training as well. So we're here to support to help you get the most out of those digital systems. In addition, you can see in the bottom right-hand corner there, we also have, City and Guilds also have a digital consultancy offer. We work with a gentleman called Steve who will assist your organisation with CPD events for digital consultancy. Again, if you wish to know more, please contact Direct Sales. So City and Guilds eFunctional Skills, what is it all about? So eFunctional Skills is a complete online functional skills teaching and learning experience. It guides your learners from initial assessment through to exam success. We have initial assessments and diagnostics for maths, English and ICT. It will work out the level from entry 1 up to level 2. However, the resources and the individualised learning plans are from entry level 3 to level 2. One of the main benefits that our customers find about eFunctional Skills is that the initial and diagnostic assessment through to the exam papers have actually been written by City and Guilds. So the language is very similar in terms of the questions in the initial and diagnostic assessment, but also within the end exam. Okay. You can access this system anytime, anywhere. 24/7 on PCs, laptops, smartphones and tablets. We find a lot of learners like to use this system on their handheld devices. And from the feedback that we've had from customers, generally we find that they're logging in at, kind of 10 o'clock in an evening because that's when it's most suitable for them. Also bearing that in mind, a platform such as this is really useful for flipped learning. The learner will actually receive that bespoke journey and they can perhaps do a lot of their work before walking into that classroom. In order to test what the learner is learning within our system, we have the Test Your Knowledge tests, which are RAG rated, which allows you as the tutor to see whether that learner is in fact becoming exam ready. Lastly, you can tailor this system even further. So you can actually create your own lessons, uploading perhaps contextualised resources and sending them out to those learners that perhaps you don't see that often. Perhaps they are work-based learners, but yet everything can remain on this one system. So just to take you through the process, at the top here you can see it says what level am I actually working at. That's the initial assessment, so the system will work out the level that the learner is working towards. Once it's worked out whether the learner is working towards entry level 3, level 1 or level 2, it will then move on to the diagnostic assessments. There are multiple diagnostic assessments, let's say for maths, multiplication and division, addition and subtraction, number and number systems. And the learner can actually take those diagnostics in chunks. So it allows the learner to truly recognise their skills gaps. From your tutor perspective, that will appear on a red, amber and green system. If the learner is on red or amber, how do we fill those gaps? Okay, because the learner is not exam ready if they're on red and amber for that particular diagnostic. So what the system does is it actually provides you with teaching and learning resources within tailor-made individualised learning plans. The learner can seek additional support from the tutors. Perhaps as tutors you can build extra lessons, sending through documentations, websites, web links that you want them to look at. But how can we test that they are really truly gaining those skills from the individualised learning plans? Well, as I mentioned earlier, we actually have Test Your Knowledge tests provided within every ILP. So let's say, for example, the learner was at red for multiplication and division. They will have been provided with an individualised learning plan, and then they will receive Test Your Knowledge tests which are specifically based around multiplication and division. Okay. The very last thing that we would do is the tutor would actually assign the practice tests and any exam guidance, which is the last thing after we've bridged all those diagnostic gaps, actually getting the learner to the stage where they're exam ready, and again they understand the language and the way the questions are asked within the end exam. Okay. So I'm now actually going to log in and show you the system. So as I mentioned earlier, we do actually work in conjunction with a company called Hodder Education. Hodder Education assists City and Guilds with the platform. We have worked with them in regards to some of the resources, but City and Guilds host their resources on the system. So just logging in as a learner, the learner system will actually look something like this. So you can see here that there's 3 boxes. We have lessons, to-do list, and the how am I doing section. The to-do list is where the learner will access all of that work that this system provides automatically. So first of all, we have the initial assessment. The learner will be asked a series of level 1 questions. Depending on how well they do, they'll either be moved up to level 2 questions or down to entry 3. Let's say, for example, this system then says that for the initial assessment that Kirsten is actually working towards level 1. What she'll be provided with next is a number of diagnostic boxes which will appear in this to-do list. Now there's 2 options here. Some centres decide that they like the learner to complete all the diagnostics in one go, which is absolutely fine. The learner can click on each of these boxes, work their way through the questions, and if the learner is on amber or red, they will be provided with that individualised learning plan, which again, a new box will appear in this to-do list. Some centres decide that they like the learners to work through the diagnostics separately. So let's say, for example, we had the number and number systems diagnostic. The learner would click on that. If they're on green, brilliant. The tutor would then ask them to move on to the next diagnostic. If the next diagnostic is addition and subtraction, and let's say, for example, the learner gets amber or red, they'll be provided with that individualised learning plan, and the tutor will ask them to work their way through that plan prior to moving on to the next diagnostic. That's completely up to you. That generally works quite well in a work-based learning scenario, but that's completely up to you how you decide as an organisation to use this system. The benefit, however, is that there is that flexibility. So, like I said, after the learner has been provided with their individualised learning plans, they will click on the box. It would open up the plan. The learner can click on the PDFs, watch the videos, and go through that plan over and over again. Now, whenever the learner takes any of the tests within this system, the result will actually appear in the How Am I Doing section. The system will mark as much as it can, so all the initial and diagnostic assessments, one-word answers, multiple choice, drag and drop. However, if there is any written work, especially as we get more into the end exam practice, there could be some marking for the tutor to do, and I'll show you where to find that later. But ultimately, once they've taken the initial assessment, the transcript, so the answers, the questions that they were asked, the answers that they gave, and whether that was right or wrong, will appear in this section for the learner to view and reflect on how they've done. They'll also get a report at the bottom which will actually constantly be updated in real time and will tell them the next steps. And lastly, as you can see on the left-hand side, we actually have the lessons section. This is where you are able to create, you'll create your lessons in the tutor section, they'll be sent through to the learner and they'll be sitting in this section. Okay. Now you'll notice that the system actually tracks the amount of time the learner spends in this system. It also tracks the amount of time it takes them to do any of the tests. Okay. So I'm now going to log out as a learner and log in as a tutor. Okay, so this is what the tutor platform will actually look like. As you can see here, there's a variety of different boxes, from creating latest lessons through to the maths and English initial assessments through to the full license allocation. Just to explain the way that that works, the maths and English initial assessments are completely free of charge for City and Guilds. The reason being is we want you to be able to test your learners prior to deciding whether you're going to take them onto a programme of study. So you may need a learner who's going to be working towards level 1. This would allow you to test what level they were working towards prior to deciding whether you were going to take them onto that programme. What you pay for is from the point of diagnostic through to ILP, through to all the resources. Okay, and that is done through this allocation section here. Now it's really easy to manage your students. You simply come into this section here, and you can either import learners via a CSV in a bulk upload. Alternatively, you can add students on an individual basis, either using an email address or alternatively creating a username. What we always advise is that you actually clump those learners into groups. The reason being is when it comes to looking at your test reports, doing any marking, or alternatively sending lessons through to the learners, you can actually send them through on a group level. Okay. Now, again, just to make a point here, the tutors can actually see all of the learners on this system. So if one tutor is away and another tutor needs to support, everyone has full visibility of all of your learners within your centre on this one platform. Okay. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to show you the maths resources today. So if I come in here, you'll notice that we have introduction. So there's lots of introduction guides. We then have initial assessment and diagnostic. Now, when you allocate a learner with an initial assessment or a diagnostic license, then you are actually provided with the initial assessment automatically. However, should you wish for the learner to retake that test at any point, you can click +L and assign this test, and that will actually be sent through to the learner again. It may be the case that the learner sits to level 1 and then you want them to move on to the level 2. So you simply just reassign the higher level of test. Okay, The licenses last for 2 years, so as long as you do that within the 2 years, there will be no extra charge. Okay. Now, let's say, for example, I've just taken my initial assessment and the system says that I am working towards level 1. And perhaps one of the areas that I'm struggling with is fractions, decimals, percentages, and ratio. We can see here that on the right-hand side, there's lots of resources that actually appear. Section 1 of 2 is all about the learner building that skill. Section 2 of 2 is all about the learner testing that skill. Now, as a tutor, you don't have to send these resources through to the learner. Our system will do that automatically as part of that ILP. So in terms of the content, you'll notice that we have introduction. It's actually written twice. This one at the top is a presentation. The one underneath is the equivalent PDF, and this PDF actually has the transcript in there for the learner. Okay, the introduction is simply just an introduction to the topic area. The explanation, however, is actually moving on to teach the learner about that particular topic area. So there is audio behind these. Unfortunately, you won't be able to hear the audio via the webinar today. If anyone does want a free trial so that you can view the content, our direct sales team will actually be in touch following these webinars and will be more than happy to set you up with a free trial license should you want to have a listen to these in further depth. Okay, but as you can see, this particular one is broken down into 11 bite-sized chunks. The learner can stop, pause, rewind, watch these over and over again, bring them up on again their smartphones, their iPads, laptops, as long as they have that internet connection. Okay, and then lastly, we actually have the worked example. The worked example will provide the learner with questions that they could be asked within that end exam, and then it will actually show them how to work out the answer. The last thing that the learner will complete within section 1 of 2 are these 2 tasks. And the tasks are there as multiple choice tests to actually test that learner's knowledge. So, you know, just really quickly, just answer anything here. Okay, you can see how the learner needs to answer the question. These will be marked automatically by the system. Again, they're just really quick tests to see if the learner is actually picking up understanding of that skill. Now, the tutor can again view this result on a red, amber or green system. If the learner is on green, brilliant, you would probably ask them to move on to section 2 of 2. If the learner is on red or amber, we would advise a couple of things. One is you may want to bring them into a classroom setting and actually support them face to face in terms of, you know, helping them with their fractions and decimals. Alternatively, the other thing you could do, especially if they're work-based learners, is create a lesson. So if I come up to the lesson section and click create new lesson, and let's say we're going to call it fractions and decimals at level 1. Okay, I am able then to upload any of my own resources. This could be a contextualized document, perhaps, you know, tailored towards their curriculum area for fractions and decimals. You can include any web links. Okay, but likewise, you can also include the resources that are on this system. So if I just minimize this, and let's say, for example, if the learner's struggling with fractions and decimals at level 1, we may want to go back to entry level 3 and provide the entry level 3 resources. If I come and click on the plus L now, can you see how it's saying add to fractions and decimals at level 1, which was the latest lesson that I've just created? Okay, so when I was talking about earlier about really tailoring that learner journey, as you can see here, you're really able to do that. Okay, what we would do now is we will click share. We can select, and perhaps we may want to send it out to one particular individual, and all we do is click assign and share lesson. Okay, and that will have appeared on the Learners platform in that left-hand side box. Okay, so fingers crossed, what we would expect to see after a while, coming back to level 1, is every single one of these areas for all of the tasks and test your knowledge tests should soon be appearing on green. This really enables you to see whether that learner is becoming exam ready, so whether they are starting to understand that maths, English and ICT skill. If I scroll down, you'll notice that we have exam scenarios and we also have exam papers. Exam scenarios need to be provided to the learner by the tutor when the tutor views that the learner is ready. Now, there are different ways of delivering that task. The first one, this one with the green bar chart against it, allows the learner to answer the questions on the system. If there's any marking to do, the tutor will do that on the system. This one, however, is probably one of my favourites. This is the interactive whiteboard example. Okay, and this particular one would enable you to deliver that practice exam setting in a classroom. You can see there's the mark scheme there, which you can access afterwards. And we also have a couple of student responses. Student response A is always the correct response, the correct working out, whereas student response B, the learners still picked up a few marks, but perhaps they've done something a little bit wrong. If we click on this, we can actually see the examiner comments. Okay, which is really useful to show the learner where they'll actually be picking up those marks. Okay, the last thing that they actually move on to is the exam practice papers. You can see we've got the PDF version, but again, we've got the version where they could answer the question on the Functional Skills platform and send it through to the learner. Okay, now this is all getting the learner to the stage where they are exam ready. If they are taking a City and Guilds exam, then the registration and the Evolve booking is separate to this system. Okay. So coming back to the main part of the system now. Okay, what I'm going to do next is actually show you the test reports. So what I'm going to do is find my learners by filtering via a group. So you can see at the bottom here, I have a couple of learners that appear. So I'm going to click on Michael today. Okay. The system is showing me that the learner has taken the level 1 initial assessment. They did really well on that one, so we've then moved them up to the level 2. So the system is saying that Michael is actually working towards level 2 for his maths. As you can see at the top here, he's then taken the diagnostics at that level. For dividing, Michael is struggling, so he will be provided with an individualised learning plan. Likewise, for the diagnostics for fractions, decimals and percentages, tables, charts and graphs, and temperature and conversion. If we come in and click on one of these, we can actually review the questions that Michael was asked and the answer that he gave if in fact they were wrong. Okay, and at the bottom we can download a report. that if, for example, you are using our Learning Assistant, our ePortfolio, and you do have the functional skills included within that, you can then pull off this report, which is the learner journey for the City and Guilds EAT Functional Skills Programme. You can see we've got all the tests here that Michael's taken in time and date order and the results. And you can add work to that. You can, add in your own commentary. Okay. And you can tailor that, file and save it as much as you want. Now that report is the same report as the learner receives on their system. It will be updated in a real-time format. You'll notice at the top that we also have a to-do list. So what this allows us to see is any work that Michael currently has within his to-do list. So we have a mirror image of Michael's account as a tutor. Again, that can be exported as a Word document, and again, you can tailor that should you wish to. Now, just to give you another example, if I click on this particular learner, okay, you can see at the bottom here that, again, this learner is working towards level 2, but for dividing fractions, shape, space and measures, they're at 100%, so they won't have been provided with an individualised learning plan. But for tables, charts and graphs, they will have done. And if we come in and click on review, and then click on next steps, it actually takes us through to the resources that the learner has been provided with for that individualised learning plan. Okay. So the last thing to show you is where you would do any marking. Any marking would appear in this section here. If there was anything to do, then you can just click on your group, again, filter in, and again, you are able to put in commentary in there, and that will be sent through to the learner in that right-hand side column that says, how am I doing? Okay, so this is the eFunctional Skills Programme. If you wish to know more in terms of the costs and potentially your learner numbers, and how we can assist you in terms of a price proposal, then our direct sales team will be in touch. Just to give you an overview of the top line price for those licenses, as we can work on a little bit of a banding structure, is that the maths is £7.50. Likewise, so is the English and the ICT. So for a single licence, it's £7.50. For a dual skill licence, it's £13.50. And for a triple skilled licence, it would be £18. Okay, but like I said, if you are interested to know more, our direct sales team will be in touch. Please do ask them about what we can do in terms of a proposal for you. And also, if you would like any further information, we will be sending out this webinar, so you can always forward that on to colleagues. And we look forward to speaking with you soon. I hope that's been really useful. Thank you very much.